Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are stripping away about 2 centuries of Halloween costumes, Disney cartoons, and, Johnny Depp movies to get to the actual DNA of an American myth.
We're going back to the source.
Exactly. We're looking at The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. And I think the biggest misconception, the thing we need to clear up right away, is that this is a ghost story.
It really isn't, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's a ghost in the title, but when you go back to the original 1819 text, which was supposedly found among the papers of the late Dietrich Knickerbocker, you realize Irving wasn't writing horror.
Not at all.
He was writing a biting social satire. It's a comedy. It's about a culture clash.
That's it. It's the story of this very hungry, very greedy Yankee interloper trying to exploit a settled Dutch community.
And the community just effectively chews him up and spits him out.
That is the perfect way to frame it. And the setting is so crucial to understanding why that happens. Irving spends a massive amount of time, establishing the atmosphere of this little valley, or rather lap of land near Tarrytown.
He calls it a place of listless repose.
That phrase, lap of land, always struck me. It's so cozy, but also,
A little suffocating.
yeah, suffocating. The text mentions this drowsy head quality, where the whole area is under a kind of witching power. The valley itself feels like it's in a trance.
And that trance, it's political and cultural, not just magical. You have to remember this came out in 1819. The rest of America is just rushing forward, expansion, commerce, constant change.
Right.
But Sleepy Hollow, it's an eddy.
Right.
The source describes the inhabitants as being like little nooks of still water which border a rapid stream.
So the current just rushes by them,
Exactly. The Dutch settlers just sort of spin slowly in the same spot.
which creates this perfect petri dish for superstition, doesn't it? The people there aren't just telling stories, they are, in a way, living in them. They're subject to trances, visions.
They believe the nightmare, with her whole ninefold gambles there, is this very static, very superstitious world that our protagonist, Ichabod Crane, inserts himself into.
And inserts himself is the right phrase, because he really does not fit. I mean, visually, Irving goes out of his way to make him look alien. He's not a romantic lead.
No, he's a scarecrow eloped from a cornfield.
The physical description is, well, it's borderline cruel. Irving gives him shovels for feet, hands that dangle a mile out of his sleeves.
And a nose like a snipe that acts as a weathercock.
God.
It's this image of a jagged, awkward thing in a landscape of, like, round, comfortable Dutch farmers.
But, despite looking ridiculous, Ichabod has power. He's the schoolmaster. And the text is fascinating here because it totally dismantles the idea of him being some gentle scholar.
Oh, yeah. His schoolhouse is described as being secured with like an eel pot.
Such a great metaphor, easy to get into, impossible to get out of. And his teaching style.
He's a tyrant. He uses the birch rod, but the text says he administers justice with discrimination.
Which is just a polite way of saying he's a bully who picks his targets.
Right. He spares the weak, the puny children, but he doubles the punishment on the tough, wrong-headed Dutch kids who stand up to him. He claims it's for their own good.
But it reads like he's trying to beat the Dutch spirit right out of them.
And he's also a bit of a parasite. He's an itinerant teacher, whipping the cat, boarding with farmers a week at a time.
Carries all his worldly goods in a handkerchief. He relies entirely on the community to feed him.
And in exchange, he becomes the traveling gazette. He carries gossip from house to house, creates a little stir at the tea tables. He's basically creating information for food.
But that food, that sustenance, is key, because Ichabod's defining trait isn't his intellect, it's his appetite.
The dilating powers of an anaconda. That's one of my favorite lines in all of literature.
It's perfect. He's physically lank, but he just consumes everything in his path.
And that consumption is twofold. He consumes food, obviously, but he also consumes the local folklore. He's obsessed with Cotton Mather's History of New England Witchcraft.
He spends his afternoons reading it until dusk, and then terrifies himself on the walk home.
It's this self-inflicted torture loop. He reads about witches, then he walks through the woods singing psalm tunes to drive away the demons he just read about.
But that hunger for more food, more stories, it eventually turns toward the biggest prize in the valley.
Katrina Van Tassel.
The daughter of Baltus Van Tassel. She's 18, plump as a partridge, and a coquette.
Oh, she knows exactly what she's doing. She wears ornaments of pure yellow gold to signal her wealth, and these short petticoats to show off her ankles.
But let's be real about Ichabod's love for her. The text is so explicit that the moment he enters her father's house, his peace of mind was at an end.
But it wasn't because of her charm, was it?
No. It was because he saw the estate.
Exactly. This is the economic fantasy that drives the whole plot. Ichabod looks at the Van Tassel farm, the vast barns, the sleek porkers, the regiments of turkeys.
And he doesn't see a farm.
He sees a liquidation sale.
The imagery Irving uses there is so visceral. Ichabod looks at a pig and sees bacon. He looks at a turkey and sees it trussed up. He looks at pigeons and sees a pie.
He is mentally butchering the farm while it's still alive.
And this is where the satire really becomes a critique of the Yankee mindset versus the Dutch mindset. The Van Tassels represent abundance, stewardship keeping the wealth in the land.
And Ichabod represents speculation. He imagines turning the farm into cash, investing in immense tracts of wild land and shingle palaces, and then moving away.
To Kentucky or Tennessee, he wants to strip mine the community, take the generational wealth of Sleepy Hollow, convert it to currency, and just leave.
Which makes him an existential threat to the town. He's a virus entering the system.
And that is where Brom Bones comes in.
If Ichabod is the virus, Brom Bones is the immune system.
Abraham Van Brunt, or Brom Bones, the hero of the country round. He's broad-shouldered, double-jointed, and he rides a horse named Daredevil.
He's the physical embodiment of the valley's strength. And the text notes he has a mingled air of fun and arrogance. He's not really a villain.
No, he's just rough. He wants to settle the rivalry for Katrina with a physical fight, the honest Dutch way of doing things.
But Ichabod won't fight.
Of course not. He knows he'd be crushed. So Brom resorts to psychological warfare. He smokes out the singing school, turns the schoolhouse topsy-turvy. He's trying to humiliate Ichabod into leaving.
Which brings us to the climax.
Yeah.
The invitation to the quilting frolic at the Van Tassel estate. This is the showdown.
And Ichabod thinks this is his moment. He borrows a horse gunpowder. And wow, gunpowder is such a great reflection of Ichabod himself.
He's a broken-down plow horse, gaunt and shagged, with one spectral eye. He looks like a disaster.
But the text says he still has a spark of the devil in him.
So Ichabod rides this disaster of a horse to the party, and Irving treats us to that famous description of the feast. But again, you have to look at it through Ichabod's eyes.
It's not just a party.
No, it's the inventory of his future empire. The donuts, the Ole Koek, the ham. He's eating his future assets.
And while he's stuffing his face and dancing loosely like St. Vitus, Brom Bones is just sitting in the corner, brooding.
The tension is palpable. But the turning point of the night isn't the dancing, it's the storytelling session afterward.
This is such a critical detail. The old men sit around and tell stories. They start with the Revolutionary War. But because this is Sleepy Hollow, the war stories slide effortlessly into ghost stories.
To these people, the history of the war and the legend of the Headless Horseman are equally real.
And that blurs the line for Ichabod. He hears about the Headless Horseman, the Hessian trooper who lost his head to a cannonball.
And then Brom steps in and weaponizes this story.
How so?
Brom tells a very specific anecdote. He claims he raced the Hessian on Daredevil, and he says he would have beaten the ghost, but just as they reached the church bridge, the ghost vanished in a flash of fire.
He's planting the rules of engagement in Ichabod's mind.
Precisely. He's programming him. If you reach the bridge, you are safe. It's a setup.
So the party ends. Ichabod stays behind to propose to Katrina, and it does not go well.
Irving is brilliantly vague here, but Ichabod leaves heavy-hearted and crestfallen. The implication is that Katrina was just using him to make Brom jealous.
The coquette played her hand.
The economic fantasy is shattered, and Ichabod is cast out into the very witching time of night.
And that ride home is a masterclass in psychological horror. Every sound terrifies him. He passes Major Andre's tree, and then, at the bridge by Wiley's swamp, he sees it.
A misshapen, black, and towering object.
He challenges it. "Who are you?"
No answer. The figure moves. It's a massive horseman on a black horse. And this is where Irving is so clever. He describes what Ichabod sees, but he also gives us hints of the reality. The figure is bundled up in a cloak.
But then they hit the rising ground, and the silhouette is revealed against the sky. The head isn't on the shoulders.
It's resting on the pommel of the saddle.
Pure terror. Ichabod tries to flee. Gunpowder panics. The saddle girth breaks, and Ichabod is just clinging to the neck of this old plow horse.
And he remembers Brom's rule.
Reach the bridge! He thunders across the bridge. He looks back, expecting the flash of fire, expecting the ghost to vanish.
But instead, the goblin rises in the stirrups and hurls the head. It hits Ichabod's cranium with a crash. He tumbles into the dust, and the rider just flies past.
The next morning, the aftermath. Gunpowder is found eating grass. The saddle is trampled in the dirt. Ichabod is gone.
And right next to his hat, they find the smoking gun.
The shattered pumpkin.
It's the ultimate punchline. The head was a pumpkin. The ghost was just a skilled rider who knew the terrain. It's Brum.
It is absolutely Brum. In fact, the text says that years later, whenever the story was told, Brum would look exceedingly knowing and burst into a laugh at the mention of the pumpkin.
He reclaimed his territory using the one thing Ichabod couldn't conquer. His own superstition.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. The fate of Ichabod Crane. Because he doesn't die.
No. And this is the part of the satire that I think cuts the deepest. An old farmer returns from New York years later with news. Ichabod is alive.
Why did he leave?
Fear of the goblin, fear of his landlord, he lost the saddle, and of course the humiliation from Katrina.
And what did he do with his life?
Well, he kept school for a bit, but then he studied law, entered politics, wrote to the newspapers, and finally became a justice of the 10-pound court.
I love this trajectory. He fails at the honest, rural life. He fails as a teacher, so he goes to the city and succeeds as a politician and a minor judge.
It's Irving's cynicism on full display. The useless man, the man of words and wind, fails upwards in the American legal system.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Brom Bones wins the farm and the girl.
It suggests these two worlds, the agrarian Dutch past and the frantic American future, can't coexist. The future, Ichabod has to go to the city to survive.
Right. Now, we have to talk about the postscript, because usually when people finish the story, they stop there.
At the wedding.
Yeah. But Irving adds a postscript in the handwriting of Diedrich Knickerbocker that completely changes the frame.
This is essential. The postscript describes the narrator telling this story to a tall, dry-looking old gentleman who listens to the whole thing and then asks, what is the moral? What does it prove?
Which is the question every reader asks. Is there a lesson here?
And the narrator gives 3 incredibly tongue-in-cheek morals. First,
there is no situation in life but has its advantages and pleasures, provided we will but take a joke as we find it.
Which is basically saying, lighten up.
Exactly. The second one is just a literal summary. He who runs races with goblin troopers is likely to have rough riding.
And the third one, which connects back to the politics.
Therefore, for a country schoolmaster to be refused the hand of a Dutch heiress is a certain step to high preferment in the state.
He is openly mocking the idea of a moral. He's saying the only lesson is that rejection leads to political office.
But then, the old gentleman pushes back. He says the story is a bit extravagant, and the narrator admits,
I don't believe one half of it myself.
That line just destroys the reliability of everything we just heard. The narrator admits it's a tall tale.
It pulls the rug out from under you. It forces the reader into the same position as Ichabod. We're being told a story that is clearly exaggerated, clearly a fabrication.
Do we choose to believe the legend, or do we see the pumpkin? Irving leaves it ambiguous on purpose. He wants us to enjoy the lie.
So it's a story about the power of storytelling itself.
Yes. Brom used a story to drive Ichabod out. The narrator uses a story to entertain the old man. And Irving uses the story to mythologize the Hudson Valley.
And in doing so, he created a myth that completely overshadowed the reality. We remember the Headless Horseman. We forget the satire of the greedy schoolmaster.
In a way, the legend won.
The ghost story ate the satire, just like Ichabod wanted to eat the farm.
Precisely.
So when we look at this text today, it's not just a Halloween spookfest. It's a snapshot of a fork in the road for American identity. You have the settled, superstitious past versus the mobile, commercial future.
And in Sleepy Hollow, the past put up a fight. It threw a pumpkin at the future and told it to go to New York.
Which is a sentiment I think many people can still relate to. That is all the time we have for this deep dive into the papers of Diedrich Knickerbocker. We hope you'll never look at a pumpkin or a politician quite the same way again.
Indeed. Watch out for the bridges.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.